stage Lisbeth Chandler, who's joining us from Accenture. Some of you might know her from the Good Robot Company, which she was running in Cornwall. And so, yeah, here we go, Lisbeth.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's so amazing to see so many other people passionate about inclusivity, accessibility, and intersectionality with innovation and leadership. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, is that intersectionality between leadership, innovation, and inclusivity. There you go. So to give a brief introduction as to who I am, perhaps we can move the slide on. It's not a presentation without technical difficulties. Right. So a quick introduction to who I am. I'm kind of went on this really incredible and quite roller coaster journey in the last 5 years. I spent predominantly most of that time actually based here in Cornwall. And I went from student, very passionate about technology and innovation, understanding how that iterates across such a broad spectrum of organizations, to founder, entrepreneur, academic, and then working for a massive corporation, Accenture. And when Caitlin reached out to me, I thought this is a brilliant opportunity, actually, to share how a huge organization can have such an individualized I&D approach to accessibility, to our people, to the way we work, and actually how we knit it into what we do day to day. What was fascinating is that when I joined Accenture, we did this Clifton Strengths. Some may be familiar with it. Huge, long questionnaire, understands what your top 5 strengths are. I'm diagnosed with autism. I find it actually quite difficult in getting to grips with the unwritten rules of such a large organization. And I had a talk with my manager about the accommodations. He was brilliant, very receptive, adapted all his approach in terms of understanding how literal I can be. And what fascinated me is, in spite of all the challenges I have, some of the very personal weaknesses because of that disability, they focus so much on my strengths, my potential, what I could do and what I could be and how they could empower that. And that's why I want to share a little bit of the very unique approach of Accenture today. Can we move it up? There you go. So one of the things I think is very unique about Accenture's approach is that it's not just a social case. It's not just a case to make people feel good, inclusivity is necessary, but they actually show the business strength in having that diversity too. And having it so embedded in the culture that it becomes a way of life in terms of the way we deal with clients, the way we act with each other. And actually our performance then represents that. I've got a very special video to show first, which I think embodies that representation so much better than I can for just a few minutes. And those are our real employees. That is the commitment that we come to work with every day. It's a value that, it makes me excited to go to work. And that video is part of the reason that I joined Accenture, because I knew I was coming into an organization that accepted and encouraged and celebrated diversity. And that inclusion starts with I is so powerful in the innovation space. I'm holding a little prop here today, actually, because I feel like it embodies representation of my very small impact in the first few months that I've spent at Accenture since September 2023. And I struggled with the fact that I have what's called an invisible disability. And I said about the accommodations I needed, and they're very, very responsive. What I found was so impactful was making that experience of, for example, the challenges of sensory overload, but also my strengths of attention to detail, systems thinking naturally in my environment, and finding patterns hidden in data and hidden in the observations I have in settings, and making that into a POV. So what I did was I went a bit rogue. I made a VR headset to give to my manager as part of some I&D training on the fly for them. And I said to him, do you think you could please watch this video, because it explains the experience of my day-to-day as a neurodiverse employee? And he did, and he said it was really, really impactful, because it gave him the why accommodations, why these initiatives are so important. And it, for me, was also a representation that you can have inclusivity and leadership from many different places. You don't have to be C-suite, you don't have to be an MD or a director. It really is inclusion. Starts with one, if you want it to. And talking about that, Margaret Smith, an amazing senior director, one of my personal role models as well, she says it's part of the fabric of our work, and we're constantly reimagining what's possible. We serve over 3/4 of the Fortune 100 and the Fortune 500 globally. We have 743,000 employees, so a huge organization, and serve clients across 120 different countries. And yet, I was able, in 3 weeks of joining, to get in a room with our C-suite directors and say, I want to do something that fosters I&D more at Accenture. And they listened, and they were engaged, and they followed that through. And having that responsiveness from leadership for an employee who's just walked through the door, I mean, it really illustrates some role models from some of the larger enterprises that actually we can brush us of as, yes, they do inclusivity, but does it have an impact? Yes, it does. And we do a brilliant resources as well, all free online if you're interested. Recently, we did a study collaboration with Girls Who Code, the tale of 2 workplace cultures. One which actually focused on something we called accent on gender, which is gender equality, specifically looking at the tech sector, so very topical for today. And actually, the lived experiences of women in those more inclusive cultures, the top 20% of what's considered inclusive in the industry, they said that if other companies could adapt to those cultures, there would almost be 3 million young women working in tech in 2030, versus the 1.5 million that would be working in tech if we continue the trends we have today. There's less attrition. The attrition rate of women in tech could drop 70%. These are real impacts that happen from adapting to those more inclusive cultures. Sorry, my clicker is a bit fiddly. So I often get asked, so what should I do? What initiatives create impact? Lots, and continuous change and iterative change. And understanding that it's many different things that contribute to this culture. It's everyone in the workplace singing from that same song sheet, having that motivation and drive to create and foster that inclusive community. We have accessibility centers, which not many people would consider with a consultancy company. We're 36 globally. And we actually have Accenture labs that develop new applications and technologies to meet the needs of people with different abilities. They're very cool centers. If you do need some accessible tech, go and check it out on our website. We also do podcasts and other resources about how we drive accessibility. So again, with the knowledge sharing, we're trying to create change not just within our own company, not just within our employees, but with our stakeholders. We work with a range of organizations, more than 9,000 clients across many different sectors. But one of the key expectations our clients have is that we will operate in a way with integrity in what we do and to our people. So I will do a caveat to this. This is my hypothesis, not Accenture's. But as here today, as Elizabeth Chandler, I thought I would include it. I talked in San Diego in September at an accessibility conference there. And one of the concepts I introduced and that I've developed further in research is this idea of technical debt. The fact that we are trying to produce innovation in actually a world where already open source applications have not been made with accessibility in mind, with having accessible personas when we test and interact with the new user testing of new technologies. And how this ties into the leadership and inclusivity narrative is that if you have leaders who care about fostering that inclusivity, who understand the why of why it's important, the accessibility side, then actually that ties in then to the impact that you have in your clients, your solutions, what you build, who you collaborate with, and how you collaborate. So much like tech debt that I'm sure people are familiar with, when organizations go and try to innovate in a very fast-paced landscape, which it feels like that at the moment, especially with everything going on in the AI space, it can be easy to say, inclusivity, accessibility, that's side of desk. That's after, that's post-implementation. We'll get the MVP working, and then we'll think about accessibility. But you have to build it in from the get-go. And if you have people who are informed and who are passionate about it, then actually what you'll find is that that gets knitted into the piece from the start. Because the longer that you wait, the harder it is to change. And it ties into this notion of social sustainability, because the more that we knowledge share, the more that we encourage cross-collaboration in an inclusive way, the more that we co-create with the people that this technology affects, the more diversity we have in the teams developing it, the consideration of accessible personas, AI bias, and also representation, diverse representation, the more inclusive that foundation is for the future of innovative tech. Because it's great to consider where it's going, where we are, but we need to consider where we've come from. And it hasn't been an inclusive landscape. The technologies have not been accessible. So we're making up for lost time here, and it's a group effort in order to do that. And this is why conferences like this are so great, because the knowledge sharing, those interactions, it all expands our awareness. It shares our experiences. So I've talked a lot, and I'm fairly sure I'm over time. But hopefully you will visit some of the resources we have in terms of IND and Accenture. And if you're interested to talk to me after, please feel free to catch me during the conference days. I'm here all day. And also, come on, clicker, connect with me on LinkedIn, because that always helps. And thank you very much, because it's one of the first talking events I've done in Cornwall. So.
Awesome. You're actually right on time. So we still even have time for questions.
Yep.
So if anybody has any questions for Elizabeth, we've got time for probably 2 or 3 questions. So do let us know if you've got anything. Otherwise, again, she's available afterwards. So.
Hello, Elizabeth. Thank
Hello.
you for a great presentation. It's really great to hear you talk about the way that Accenture's, really supported your strengths and has come from a really positive place. But I want to ask you if you can share some of the challenges that you've experienced, if any.
Challenges I've experienced. Don't create a Word document that has all the unwritten rules of the office and then give it to other people. No, yeah, actually they were very encouraging of that when I did that. I think one of the personal challenges I've had, is actually like not overcompensating, if that makes sense. Like there is so much support in our culture and in our organization. And I've become very used to, for example, doing speaking events, rehearsing 20 times, Googling other speakers so I can replicate their body language and tone and, mask and talk in the right way in order to have a, good experience for people listening. Yeah. And I think I very much did that with the managers. And, I come into a new team and I'm like, so, I know we have this new project and I've got this little form that you can do and it talks about the output because I'm a bit worried that it might be unclear. And they're there and they're like, we've actually already done that for you because we already understand that, you have additional accommodations and we care about you. And we just, already have preempted that. But I'm so used to working in organizations where, I have to do the legwork. I sometimes need to step back and just be like, yeah, thank you for your help.
Yeah, thank you.
Very welcome.
Perfect. We've got a question there in the middle. So one challenge of a theatre setup is it does make it a little bit difficult to get mics across.
Hello, thanks so much. It's really great
Thanks.
to hear your perspective. I was just wondering, do you have anything in place or do you consider how to sort of protect yourself when you're working as a lived experience person and you're sharing that on a basis with a company, for example?
Could you expand what protect myself means physically? Or?
No. I suppose... I suppose I'm kind of relating to personal experience about when you start to use your lived experience in a company and that becomes a resource, how can you keep yourself from maybe over-disclosing or putting yourself in a place of vulnerability that you don't necessarily mean to?
Yeah, putting TMI, too much information. I think I have a grad group. I'm part of the grad scheme in operations. But I get a lot more responsibility my way, which is brilliant because it empowered me. But there is 4 other grads on our scheme because operations is very different from strategy and consultancy. And I'm really lucky because they understand that I don't know sometimes how much information to share. So sometimes, we have our secret language of hey, if I put a hand on the table, maybe don't share about how you had to do 7 different outfit changes before you came to work today with a client. So, I've got a bit of kind of peer spotting in terms of gymnastics metaphor for this. I'm very lucky because we're a very close-knit grad group. We're a very, very diverse group, actually. You know what? I'm going to put them on the screen because they are amazing. And it's part of the reason I'm here today because I've got such a cool grad group. There they are in the corner. Wonderful. But without them, I would struggle a lot more with that. Even in terms of manager conversations, we'll tend to talk and run past and I'll say, do you think it's okay to share this? Is that really necessary? And it kind of links into the answer to the other question where actually sometimes just see what they do first in terms of accommodations and then see if you need more after or see if, everyone's so willing to help. I haven't felt like I needed to protect myself really in Accenture, it's a very safe space to be. And they put a lot of effort into making that happen. But yeah, if I had to put anyone in terms of these are the amazing people that support, these are the amazing people that support.
Perfect. That's an easy one for you, Ellie.
Thank you. Hi. Obviously, one of your impacts, one of the things you said that creates impact is having women-specific support initiatives.
Yeah.
We've been recommended by some inclusion experts that if you create development programs specifically for groups, that can actually be suggesting that those people need improvement more and therefore it's less inclusive. But so how have women received has it been well received by women, I suppose, is my question.
I would say that those initiatives and those impacts and programs tie into that research we did. And over, I can't get to the statistics slide now. Sorry, maybe someone from tech could help. It's okay, but overwhelmingly positive is kind of the response to that. Definitely depends how you introduce it. Like, we have a lot of support. I mean, there's pages and pages on our UKI program. One of the big benefits of being with a huge company with lots of resources is that we can do a lot of different programs, and usually because that, you know, no group kind of like feels left out. There's also support that's there for everyone, but. Yeah, we haven't seen that. It's actually, thank you. Yeah, it's actually had a negative effect in that.
Well, I think I'm just going to butt in.
Yeah, please do.
I think we get that as well a little bit, saying, you know, why have you called it Tech Girls? You know, is that going to say that you need or Tech Women?
Yeah.
And what we found, though, was actually by putting those labels on it and by inviting people to the table, they felt more seen and heard and more likely to participate and take part. When we tried to make it more neutral, yeah, we had a lot more people take part, but we didn't have any girls come. And it didn't matter that we changed all the pictures. It didn't matter that we made it gender neutral colors. It didn't. We could have pictures of only girls, but until we put the word girls on it, they didn't come. So I think we all want to move towards a place where we don't have to have these programs. We always talk about, I'd really love to be tech kids. I'd really like to be tech people. I'd like to move away from it. And as soon as we start to see that representation come to the events and we start to see those changes in the system, then it would be amazing not to need these anymore.
And our leadership is like the ownership of the Accent On initiatives, which looks at, for example, Accent On Gender, Accent On Enablement, which is like a disability and inclusion group. That the leaders from that aren't necessarily people from a part of that group, which is really good. So it really means that actually, you know, it may be an Accent On Gender initiative, but, you know, we have men in the leadership for those initiatives as well. And because it's co-created between a lot of different people, these are all voluntary stuff that people get involved in, because that's just the culture of our company and usually the values of our employees to be involved and help fostering that community, is that because there's so much shared ownership and shared input into these, you know, they're really robust. And being Accenture, they're quite risk averse, so they've considered kind of all the angles and possibilities that you can. And there's such a celebration of difference that it's not really kind of, oh, they've got that program. It's like, yes, they've got that program. That's brilliant. That's great.
Perfect. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. But again, Elizabeth will be around
Thanks,
all
everyone.
day.